Hello everyone, this is Gage from Gondorian Smith, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys another Third Age Reforged online multiplayer battle replay. And this one is a 4-player free-for-all on the Pelannor Fields map, and I'm going to be covering this one because Bogdan Ironfoot, who is the leader of the Durns Folk clan, which is also the clan I am in, asked me to cover some of the replays, or at least a few replays, that are always being sent into the replays channel of the Durns Folk Discord, so that is what I'm going to be doing today. So we have got DF Lister here, who's going to be commanding the realm of Lindon. He's got 2 units of the Wardens of Harlondon, who are a hybrid horse archer and spear cav unit, I believe. So these guys don't have awesome armor, but they do have a pretty nice shield value, which makes them hard to skirmish down, even with other foot archers, and definitely with other horse archers. And being elves, they have a very good accuracy on, or with their bows rather, sorry. However, they are very expensive, and I believe you can bring 2 of them before the price increase, but they do cost 1,000 florins each, just like the Mithlond Lancers here, who also cap out at 2, but are also 1,000 florins each. Now, unlike the Wardens of Harlondon, these guys are actually AP Lancers, but they also have AP Javelins as well, so they are very damaging, of course, but they have to do their damage from a relatively closer range. Over here, we also got the Mithlond, I think, well, it looks like they're called Mithlond Nobles here, but they are, of course, the Chariots. These guys are very difficult to use, definitely, but they can be very, very damaging when used correctly. They have javelins, but most of the damage seems to be dealt when you're just running them straight through enemy infantry lines. Of course, you want to stay away from spears and halberds and pikes and such, but against sword and shield infantry or shock infantry, for the most part, they will do very well for themselves. He also down here has 1 unit of the Noldoran Horse Lords, which is, of course, I believe, technically a knight unit that the Elves of Lindon have. You can see that's actually where his general is. Kierdan, the shipwright, is there. He also has 2 units of the lowest tier foot javelins, that being the Lindon Marines here. These guys are, of course, javelin men, but they also actually have spears and shields in melee, so they are relatively hard to run down with cav. He also has 1 unit of the Noldoran Blade Masters here, who are, of course, the elite shock infantrymen. That does cost like 1,300 florins, however, they do have very nice stats, as well as multiple hit points and good armor. He also has 2 units of the standard Mithlond Sword Masters, who are way lower in stats than the Noldoran Blade Masters, but are, of course, or less money, and you can bring more of them before the price increase. However, these guys do have lower armor, so you have to make sure to keep these guys away from pretty much any skirmish fire at all. He's got a couple units of the Harlondon infantry here, a little bit more sturdy in terms of missile fire here because of their shields and slightly better armor, I believe. But they also are going to be slightly less damaging than shock infantry, of course. He also has 1 unit of the Noldoran Guard here to really stabilize his line and keep back any enemies that decide to try to push through. And here you can see his other unit of Lindon Marines and his other 2 units of, or his other 1 unit of Wardens of Harlondon and his other unit of Mithlond Lancers. But that will do it for his army, so we can now go to the next, which is going to be Rune, commanded by Jarizi of the Darkcloud, who, of course, is a pretty big part of the Reforged team. He has got, I believe, 3 or 4 maybe units of the fully upgraded Eastron Clansmen, so despite the fact that these guys look very, very cool, they are pretty much just a really low-tier sword and shield infantrymen, so do not expect them to do too much other than act like fodder, pretty much. On either end, he's got 1 unit of Loke Signrim being backed up by 1 unit of Loke Flagrim, so some good AP there, and the spears should do a good job of warding off enemy cav. For his main line, he has got 2 or 3 units of the Eastern Clansmen backing up 2 or 3 units of the Loke Gamprim AP Halberds. The low tiers should do a pretty nice job of providing support from any incoming missile fire. Behind the Halberd line, he's got 1 unit of the Camul's Chosen Elite Sword and Shield Infantryman. He's got 2 units of the Loke Narim, 1 unit here of the Dragon's Wrath Guildsmen, who are, of course, knife throwers, who are extremely deadly in melee, but they also are, of course, going to be very weak to skirmish fire. In addition to this, he has 1 unit of Valkoth Tribesmen, and 1 more unit of the Loke Flagrim, as well as 1 unit here of the Loke Inasrim, and that will pretty much do it for his army, I believe. No, over here he actually has 1 more unit of cav, which is where his general is, that being the Dragon's Wrath Warlords. Not quite as good as the Camul's Dragon Knights, but still very, very deadly indeed. So we can now go over here to the 3rd army. This is, of course, a free-for-all with no rules, I believe. So there's going to be a lot of interesting tactics going on here. But anyway, we have got Apex White Wolf, who's got 2 units of Black Urks of the mountains on either side, so some good shock infantry here. And these guys are really good as far as shock infantry goes, mainly because of how many men they have in the unit. He's got 3 units, I believe, of the Heavy Goblin Spears, who are an extremely cost-effective unit. He's got 1 unit of the White Urk Fearmongers, who are, of course, AP Halberds that also inspire fear. He's got a couple units of Goblin Archers, as well as probably some Goblin Trackers hidden on either side of the Goblin Archers. And back here he's got a ton of trolls. He's got some snow trolls, he's got some cave troll drummers, and in addition to this he has got 2 units of the standard cave trolls. And as you guys might be able to tell, this unit model was actually taken from LOTR BFME2. Oh, I love saying that, LOTR BFME2. It's even better when you put in the DLC or this other game, or the other addition to it, the LOTR BFME2 ROTWK. Anyway, of course it wasn't taken directly from it, but a lot of looks from that game are kind of have been taken from, or kind of have been put into this one, but I think that is very cool anyway. We can now go over here to see his cavalry, which is going to be 2 units of the Warg Riders, very good at taking out enemy cav, but are relatively weak to missile fire. He also has 1 unit of the Bullock's Champions, who are of course AP Lancers and are also very good in melee. That is also where his general is, but that'll pretty much do it for his army, with the exception of 1 unit of Heavy Goblin Infantry, and maybe some standard Goblin Infantry that is hiding somewhere. But so we can now go to the final army, which is going to be Rohan, being commanded by Rohan in 2016. So he has got, of course, 1 unit of the Riders of the Fold Horse Archers. These guys are also very good because they have a nice shield value as well as good armor. Not quite as accurate as Elven Horse Archers, but still they are going to get the job done. He's got 1 unit of the Arid of Aldburg AP Lancers. He's also got a lot of AP. He's got 2 units of the Westmark Marshals, as well as 4 units of the Riddermark Axemen, 1 unit of the Eastmark Axemen, 1 unit of the Hornburg Sentries, and then for his Foot Archers, he's got 2 units of Helmingos and 1 unit of Riddermark Archers. So, unfortunately, you can see he's kind of out of place here, or I guess you could also say that Lister is out of place here. It'll be interesting to see whether Lister tries to go and sandwich Rune in the back, or if he will try to turn and face Rohan. But honestly, I think it would be a better idea for Rohan to try to go after the Misty Mountains, because honestly, all this AP is not going to do very well against Lindon, and as long as Lister is very careful with his cav, I think Rohan could still lose the cav fight, especially with all the javelins that Lister does have. Anyway, for the rest of Rory Hannon's army, he's got 1 unit of the Red Shield of Erkenbrand, who are of course a hybrid between melee cav and horse archers. He's got 1 unit of the First Marshal's Bodyguard, which is of course an AP bodyguard unit, that is, or an AP Lancer bodyguard unit. With multiple hit points. He's also got 1 unit of the Sons of Yorl. So he has definitely got a lot of good cav, as Rohan will pretty much always have, but his infantry is of course going to be kind of lacking because of it. But without any further ado, we can go ahead and start into the replay itself. Now, it's not super long, but I think I'll keep it at 1 speed anyway, at least for now. And it does in fact look like, yes, okay, Lister is going to... Yeah, wait, I don't know. I'm confused. I don't know if he was going after Rune or not. Back there you can see the Misty Mountains marching forward, so he definitely wants to get a piece out of Dreezy. Looks like Lister was wanting to do the same, but he is instead going to turn and face Rohan. That would definitely be a good call on Lister's part, because of how kind of mismatched Rohan's army is to face an Elven army, especially Lindon, who does not have good armor. So you can see Lister just kind of reforming his army here. And again, honestly, because of how light his armor is, I think he's probably going to have to try to rush, but we'll have to see how that works out for him anyway. I think you can definitely rush as Lindon, you just have to be careful about doing it. Over here you can see the Arid of Aldburg marching forward in a column, unfortunately, as well as his 1 unit of Riders of the Fold. And we've got the Wardens of Harlandon already peppering down here these Arid of Aldburg. Their shield and armor should protect them at least for the time being, but you definitely do not want these guys to get shot at for too long. Oh, and here's the Mithlond Lancers. So these guys are, of course, the Javelin men. They are already tossing their javelins straight into the area of Aldburg. Ooh, but they are still going to get a nice charge off on those Mithlond Lancers, and the numbers of the area of Aldburg should be able to win them that fight, especially with that really awesome charge. As you can see, a number of those Mithlond Lancers going down. But again, if these Wardens of Harlandon are actually Spear Cav now, I think that is what they were trying to do, or were going to do at least. Turn these guys into Spear Cav. The Arid of Aldburg definitely wants to get out of there before they are caught. And yes, you can see they're actually routing as it is, so definitely not good for Rohan. You can see the chariots going around out there, as well as some more Wardens of Harlandon trading arrows here with the Red Shield of Erkenbrand. Oh, and over here, Lister needs to be careful. He does not want to get his Wardens of Harlandon caught out here by the First Marshal's Bodyguard. So it looks like that is going to be the case. However, the First Marshal's Bodyguard are taking a lot of arrow fire. I'm going to slow it down here for a bit because things are definitely starting to heat up really quickly. Because over here, we can see that a lot of the Runic Cav is going down. The Dragon's Wrath Warlords not really a match for the Misty Mountains Warg Riders. Over here, Trolls Unsupported will fall against all of this AP, but in the center, it's going to be a pretty close fight, I think, between the Heavy Goblin Spears and the just line of AP. Because the Spears are AP, but as if the Heavy Goblin Spears do decide to go into Shield Wall and rush through, I think it's going to turn out very bad for Jarizi. Back there you can see Warg Riders charging head-on into the Heavy Loke Innos Rim. And honestly, that is a fight that I think the Warg Riders will probably win, just because of how good their anti-cav bonuses are. Over here, 2 units of Trolls, as well as some Shock Infantry going into these runic forces here. That is definitely not good. However, the good thing is that pretty much the entirety of Jarizi's force is AP, so that should do quite well. However, right here is Dragon's Wrath Warlords. He could lose his general very quickly, and that would be very, very bad. So the Bolg's champions back there as well. Also, something to mention is that the Misty Mountains are still a very strong faction, but you have to definitely know how to play them in order for them to be strong. They're kind of like... I'm trying to think. They're kind of interesting, I guess, really, how they can play, because you can either get totally wrecked, or you can totally wreck the enemy, so they're just really difficult. But anyway, you can see Rohan just kind of reforming his lines here. Helmingos must have retreated. First Marshal's bodyguard there. Ered of Aldberg has come back from routing. And yes, there goes Jarizi's general. Very unfortunate, because that is going to cause probably a lot of routing within the ranks of Jarizi's forces. And yes, you can see the Heavy Goblin Spears rushing through now. Goblin Infantry as well, providing some support. Yeah, things are not looking good here for Jarizi. His whole lines just completely cracking under the strength of the Misty Mountains. Oof, not looking good. All of his cavalry is gone. His infantry everywhere is just not doing too well, especially with all these Trolls. Trolls are very good, especially when given support. So it looks like Jarizi is having a very difficult time. You can see the Lokanarim are trying to do their bit. Most Chosen just kind of standing there. He's moving over his Balkath tribesmen, but it might be a little bit too slow, because he needs to try to get them to throw their javelins into these spears. But unfortunately, it looks like these Bolg's champions are going to catch these Balkath tribesmen out, and that will probably be the end of that unit. Lokanarim and Dragon's Wrath Guildsmen trying to run away from the Warg Riders, but just getting caught out, so things really not looking too good at all for Jarizi. But the thing is, as over here you can see Lindon is rushing forward now. I think Lindon will probably be able to beat Rohan, just because of how mismatched Rohan's army composition is to do this. But still, I don't know if Lindon will be able to beat Rohan as efficiently as the Misty Mountains is beating Rune right now. So he might not have enough to deal with what's left of the Misty Mountains, but we will just have to see, because that is all even if Lindon is able to beat Rohan. But as you can see, the Rohan Axemen really not going to do too well against anything, with maybe the exception here of these Noldoran Guard, because that's really the only unit that has really good armor. And the Chariots just running around in the back, causing havoc. You can see they're just running around in the back lines there. And again, the really high skill of these Sword Masters and Blade Masters is just going to be able to tear through the low skill AP Axemen of Rohan. You can see the Lindon Marines are also in position, probably throwing their javelins wherever they can. Probably going to try to throw things at the units like Sons of Laurel, who are already down to 19. We can go back over here. Mithlond Lancer's getting chased by First Marshal's bodyguard, but it's fine because it is keeping those cavalrymen away from the fight. Ooh, and with the Chariot running around the backgrounds, or running around in the back lines, looks like it's going to cause a lot of routing in Rohan's lower tier infantry, so that is definitely not good for Rory Hand in 2016. Noldorn Horse Lords back there, Mithlond Lancers, Wardens of Harlandon. You can see even the cavalry of Rohan really struggling right now against the cavalry of Lister. Ooh, and that right there, a very bad micro mistake, unfortunately. These Sons of Aorl just getting javelined over and over by the Lindon Marines. I mean, you can see how many javelins they've taken, and they still haven't died that quickly. Just really proving how strong these guys really are, but unfortunately, just with these guys standing here getting jabbed in the back, they are going to go down. However, there are some Westmark Marshals here charging into the Javelin Men, and that will stop them from firing, at least for the time being. But as most of the infantry of Lindon has broken through in the center and now on the flanks, it looks like things are going to turn very sour for Rohan very quickly. Just as over here, it looks like most of... Rune really struggling here. You can see there's some lines that are still doing okay, like these Low Camp Rim. The Camille's Chosen just kind of stagnant here in the middle. But honestly, Rune holding on a little bit better than I thought. Now that the cavalry and trolls of Apex White Wolf have been focused elsewhere, his infantry is actually doing quite a lot better. Ooh, but yes, Warg Riders charging to the back here of the Spears and the Strong Clansmen, as well as some Heavy Goblin Spears moving in, but they are shaken, proving that the Misty Mountains has definitely a weakness in terms of morale. But we can go over here. First Marshal's bodyguard cutting down the last of those lancers, it looks like. And the Chariot's still running around doing a good job at causing havoc in the backlines of Rohan, but things are maybe getting a little bit closer over here, as the numbers of Lindon are really starting to make it difficult for Lister to just get where he needs to be with his infantry. And surprisingly enough, these Rittermark Axemen are not routing quite yet. They're still holding on. You can see the Helmhammers, or Hornburg Sentries rather, sorry, doing a pretty good job at fighting against these Niflung Swordmasters, but here comes some Noldor Guard to help out. Ooh, and here's the Wardens of Harlandon coming in from the rear, probably going to get a nice charge off into the backs of these foot archers here, which, yes, that is in fact what is going to be going on. Ooh, nice charge there, but again, if they are technically Spear Cavalry, they're not going to have a great charge, but still they should do okay, maybe. Oh, but these Noldor Horse Lords, they're going to have an excellent charge, which is going to be why those Rittermark Axemen are routing. Eastmark Axemen also think about routing. Westmark Marshals as well are actually shaken. And that's definitely good because you can see these Fulmdon Marines are not doing a really great job at holding the line there. So he needs to pull these guys out and then keep charging. In the center, the Lindon Infantry has won, but it looks like he's kind of lost a little bit of micro here, which is definitely understandable with all the cavalry that is going on, or all the cavalry fights that are going on. With all the Lancers, First Marshal's bodyguard back there, the Red Shield of Erkenbrand, fighting something. Noldor Horse Lords, though, still very healthy, unlike the Sons of Errol, who are back here. Yeah, there's only 3 of them left, unfortunately, for Rohan. Here we've got Harlandon Infantry trying to stop these Helmgausts from firing into the backlines of Lindon, which is definitely going to be a bad thing for Lindon if that were to happen. But over here, it looks like Dreezy has pretty much been dealt with. You can see low camper routing. He has committed his Camille's Chosen, but again, elites unsupported aren't going to be able to hold for a super long time, especially with all these trolls and just the huge amount of goblins that are around here. The Emperor, though, still, even though they're thinking about routing, they are doing a pretty good job at fighting these goblin archers, which is unsurprising considering how low tier the goblin archers are, but still, everything counts. Chariots, though, really doing a good job. They might actually have a little bit of fear-inspiring, honestly, considering the fact that how many Rohan units are thinking about routing. And then again, a lot of this Rohan infantry is rather low tier. I believe the Rohan general is in that unit of Hornburg Sentries, by the way, not the Sons of Eorl. Red Shield of Erkenbrand still just sitting back here. Looks like they are probably out of ammo now with their bows, so they're just going to be running around as melee cav, which means they're not going to do great at charging into the backlines, or just charging in general, but they should do quite well in cav-to-cav engagements. So hopefully he will be able to stick these guys in against units like the Wardens of Harlandon or the Noldor Horse Lords, who are causing so much trouble. Yeah, the Noldor Horse Lords charging right into the back of those sentries is going to pretty much deal with them completely, because they're now down to only 6 men left. A lot of the javelins, though, of Lister have been completely taken out. Well, not completely, but almost completely taken out. Very much depleted. Niflung Swordmaster is still relatively healthy, and there goes the Rohan General, so that'll pretty much be the end of Rohan. So now it's going to be a matter of pretty much efficiency. How well did Lindon trade with Rohan? And was it as good of a trade as Misty Mountains did with Rune? Because definitely the Misty Mountains did a very good job at dealing with Rune. Because, I mean, you can just see how many goblins that Apex White Wolf has left over. Unfortunately, though, he hasn't got a ton of elites, and he did lose most all of his trolls against Dreezy. So it might not have been quite as good of a... yeah, there goes the last troll there. But looks like it might not have been quite as good a trade as I at first thought. Because, yeah, he's got a lot of low tiers here. He's got a lot of Goblin Archers. Goblin Spears are not that great. He still does have his Black Urks of the Mountain that are pretty healthy, but still. As long as Lister is able to take out the General of the Misty Mountains, Apex White Wolf could see a ton of routing. However, his Bolg's Champions are still very healthy at 29. However, his other 2 units of Wargs are not doing too well. That unit down to 10, but the other one is still 26. But if you consider the fact that these guys, I believe, started at 63, they are still definitely very depleted. So there goes somebody admitting defeat. Looks like it was not Dreezy, as his last unit is still fighting. So it must have been Rohan. I think I'll go ahead and put it back up to normal speed for now. Yep, and that will pretty much be the end of Jurizi. Unfortunately, he just wasn't able to deal with the rush of the Misty Mountains. Honestly, that is going to happen a lot, because Misty can't really stand to sit back and try to skirmish with enemies. So they're pretty much always going to be rushing, unless they decide to, like, I guess, box up, honestly, and just take the arrows. But yeah, unfortunately, he just wasn't able to deal with those spear pushes, or shield wall pushes of those heavy goblin spears. I think I'll go ahead and put up to 2 times for now, as Apex White Wolf and Lister try to reform their armies to fight each other to the bloody end. Yeah, a lot of the trolls of Apex White Wolf have gone down, which is definitely very good for Lister, considering he does not have any AP in melee, and I'm assuming by now most of his javelins are out of ammo. So trolls are going to be very difficult for him to deal with. So it's definitely a good thing that Apex White Wolf does not have many left over. Yeah, you can see Apex is trying to move his army into position. His White Orc Fearmongers took a ton of casualties. But as they do have a lot better reach than anything left over in the Lindon army, they should do quite well as long as they're not skirmished down. But if you, as you probably noticed, Lindon did not bring a single unit of foot archers, which is why he probably kind of had to rush. And as most of his horse archers are taken out, or at least are pretty much out of ammo, he's going to find it difficult to deal with units like the White Orc Fearmongers, and definitely like those shock infantrymen, the Black Orcs of the mountain. Oof. Yeah, definitely Lister is going to have to rely on his cavalry. He doesn't have a lot of it left, and as there are a lot of wargs left over as well, he might find it difficult, but he's really going to have to rely on his cav, because he also does not have really anything to deal with those spear pushes, or shield wall pushes rather, sorry, from the heavy goblin spears. 201, 140, looks like maybe the other unit's at 192, so yeah, very healthy. But again, if he's able to kill Azog back here, or up front, I guess, rather, if he's able to kill Azog, he might be able to win just by causing most of the enemies to rout, by recharging them with units like the Lindon Horse Lords. But we'll have to see. I think it's going to be a very close fight anyway, because of all these wars. Yep, just the whole army moving forward now. It looks like Lister is pretty much happy, it looks like, now with his formation. Not going to rely too much on his lines, because he probably knows that these spears are just going to push through it anyway. He's just going to try to hold for as long as possible, really. Yeah, it's for Lindon Marines. These ones must be out of ammo, but the other one looks like it might have ammo left over. So that's good. Hopefully he will be able to try to take out units, or the important units. Looks like Azog is going to try to stay in the background there. Looks like Apex definitely knows the weakness of the Misty Mountains, not wanting his general to go down because that will cause a ton of routing. Yeah, there's the Lindon Marines marching around, trying to scare off some of these units here. But we're right about where we want to be now. There's only 3,000 frames left over. Oh, only, yeah. Anyway. Well, here we go. The final clash, pretty much. Here come the spears. We'll see if they just decide to shield wall push straight away. I mean, I'm assuming they will. Which is very unfortunate, considering how few men Lister has left over. Yeah, they're just going to try to push through, maybe? I don't know. Honestly, if they don't push through, the Lindon infantry stands a pretty fair chance of winning that fight, because of the fact they don't rely on their armor, because the heavy goblin spears are, of course, AP. However, over here, the Lindon Guard might find it more difficult to deal with the spears, because the Lindon Guard actually does have good armor. Mithlond Swordmasters versus the Black Urks, that's going to be a pretty close fight, but honestly, because of how few men the Mithlond Swordmasters have left over, it will probably end in a victory for the Orcs. Over here, we've got Wargs, just butchering the last of these Wardens of Lindon and such. However, actually, well, the one unit of Wargs has been pretty much taken out, but the other one has taken a lot of losses. Again, proving how good Spear Cavalry really is. The Black Urks actually struggling quite heavily. Lindon Blade Master is probably going to be committed somewhere.
They have lost half their men.
Oof, yeah, the Lindon Guard not doing too hot. Just getting surrounded, really. And back here, we have got the Chariots. Oh, yes, the Chariots! I totally forgot about that. It actually is going to be a lot closer now because of these Chariots, because the Lindon Horse Lords are not going to trade great with the Bulg's champions. Yeah, you can see they're taking a lot of losses, but the chariots might be able to cause enough havoc in the back lines to turn things back in favor of Lister. Oh yeah, look, those Portal Door and Horse Lord took a lot of losses, but because of the chariots, the Bulg's champions actually took about even losses, honestly. Oh yes, and they're actually taking javelins now from those chariots. Here in the center, you can see the Mythlon Marines and the Nildorn Guard barely holding on against the Tide of Orcs, and here in the center, oh, things are looking real even, but you can see the spears are definitely trying to push their way through now, and it's looking just very, very even. Warg Riders in the back there. If they decide to recharge these infantry lines, it's going to be very bad. Oh, but these spears pushing a little bit too far forward, actually going to cause themselves to rout. Very, very unfortunate. Oh, and there goes Azog. That might be it. That might be it. You can actually see Círdan was there, but that might honestly be it because of the loss of the general. Warg Rider's going to get a nice charge off on those Pelannor infantrymen, but because of the loss of the general, a lot of these units are going to think about routing, especially the low-tier units like the Goblin Infantry and the Goblin Archers who are already wavering. Warg Rider's going to try to chase down these Noldorn Horse Lords, but not going to do it very effectively. Oh, Bulg's champions, only 3 of them left, or 2, whatever, but they still could get pretty good charges off, honestly. And here comes the 11 Noldorn Horse Lords ready to rear charge into the back of these lines, and as long as they charge into the lower tier units, they're going to rout those units pretty much instantaneously. And yes, and there go the Goblin Archers. They are getting chased around though by the Warg Riders, so they need to be careful, because if Círdan loses, or if Lister loses his general's life, things could already just go back straight in favor of the Misty Mountains. But honestly, I think this fight might actually turn back. Yeah, it's turning definitely back in favor of Lister, so he might actually be able to win this. Honestly, I wasn't too sure at first that he'd be able to win this just because of how good wargs are against other cav. But I didn't realize that he still had a few of those chariots left over, which is really the main reason why those Bulg's champions were taken out. And there goes Apex White Wolf, just going to go ahead and admit defeat because he did realize that he was pretty much going to lose regardless. But still, a very close fight and a very fun one indeed. Free-for-alls are always very fun, especially when there's not people getting double-teamed or like people camping anyway. Because in this fight, no one camped, which is always very fun. Because as it turns out, well, as you could probably be able to guess, there is a lot of camping that goes on in free-for-alls. But anyway, that'll pretty much be the end of this video. Looks like, unfortunately, we will not be able to see the kills, but that'll pretty much be it for this one. So if you guys did enjoy, please comment, like, and subscribe if you did not. Just tell me what I did wrong, and I'll be sure to fix it for you in the next video. So farewell wherever you fare, till your eyes receive you at your journey's end.